Every year, millions of cruisers step off a ship in Cozumel, Mexico, and a huge number of them make the same mistakes. They overpay, they underexplore, and some of them don't even make it back to the ship on time. I've been to Cozumel more times than I can count. In fact, I was there last week, and I'll be there again next week. And it's honestly one of my favorite cruise ports in the world, but only if you know what you're doing. If you don't, you're gonna waste your entire port day, and I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen to you. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. If you're visiting Cozumel and you want all of my recommendations in one place, I do have a free port guide linked in the description below. But for now, I want to get into the 9 biggest mistakes cruisers make when they visit this port. Number 1, not knowing which pier you're docking at. All right, this is the mistake that sets everything up because Cozumel's a little bit unique than most other cruise port destinations. They have not 1, they have not 2, but they have 3 different cruise terminals, and they are very different. So where your ship docks can completely change what your day looks like. And I'm amazed at how many cruisers step off the gangway having no idea which pier they're at or what that means. So let's run through those. Puerto Maya is typically used by Carnival Corporation ships, and it's south of downtown San Miguel. So you're not gonna walk anywhere from here. So if you're docked here, plan to take a taxi. The terminal itself, it's nice, it's very lush, it's modern, there's lots of shops and bars and restaurants and stuff like that. But one thing I hate about this particular cruise port destination is that the design of it forces you through a bottleneck, of course, putting you through a duty-free store. It's annoying. On a busy day with multiple ships docked, it can become a real bottleneck that can seriously slow you down, but a minor annoyance. You're on a cruise after all. The international cruise terminal often handles cruise lines like Holland, Norwegian Princess, and others. It's south of downtown and it's not walkable, but it is a short and cheap taxi ride to downtown San Miguel. Punta Langosta is the one that you want if you like to explore on foot. Disney, Celebrity, MSC, that's where I was actually last week on an MSC cruise, they typically dock here, and it's the only terminal that's actually located in downtown San Miguel proper. So you walk off the ship and you're in the heart of Cozumel City Center. There's more shops, bars, and restaurants, and they're not just the cruise terminal ones, they're actually local ones. Now it is a little bit further from the beach clubs, so if you're gonna take a taxi to one of those, that's important to know, but it's still very reasonable. Now, cruise lines can sometimes shift between terminals, so always check your specific sailing documents, or you can look at online sources that track cruise ships and their locations like Cruise Mapper to figure out where you're going to dock. Because knowing your pier tells you whether you need a taxi. For example, if you want to just explore downtown San Miguel, one cruise port, you can do it by foot. The other 2 are going to take a taxi, and also how far away you are from the things that you want to do. The number 2 mistake cruisers make when visiting Cozumel is just walking around the terminal and calling it a day. This is probably the single most common mistake I see cruisers make in Cozumel. They walk off the ship, they don't want to spend money on an excursion, which I understand you're trying to save, but they wander through the terminal shops, maybe grab a drink at Señor Frog's, buy a souvenir refrigerator magnet, and they get back on the ship. And they're like, oh, I experienced Cozumel. That is not experiencing Cozumel. You've experienced a cruise terminal gift shop. The terminal areas, they're fine for what they are, but they are not what makes this port special. The magic of Cozumel is everywhere else. The beach clubs, the snorkeling, the local food, the markets, the history, the culture. If your entire Cozumel experience is browsing a duty-free store and getting drinks at Margaritaville, then you've wasted one of the best port days in the Caribbean. Get off the pier, get your butt in a taxi, go see the island, or hire a private driver. That's an option too. And I have one in Cozumel, finally. I'll drop his link below. The number 3 mistake, booking a cruise line excursion when you don't need one. Cozumel is one of the easiest ports in the Caribbean to explore on your own, and paying a cruise line a lot of money to organize your day here is, in my opinion, one of the biggest wastes of money you can make. The island is safe, English is widely spoken, it's very Americanized, very American friendly. US dollars are accepted everywhere, and taxis are in abundance. I've traveled to Cozumel solo, I've traveled there with just me and my young daughter. I have never once felt remotely unsafe. Cruise line excursions to Cozumel are almost always overpriced, as cruise line excursions are everywhere. They're generally overcrowded, you get herded with a bunch of people like cattle on a bus, and you have to follow a rigid schedule. So you're paying a premium to be loaded onto a bus with 40 to 50 other people when you could just grab a taxi for a fraction of the cost and go exactly where you want on your own timeline. The beach clubs are a short taxi ride away. Downtown San Miguel is a short taxi ride away. And in fact, if you're docking at the right terminal, you're right there. This is not a port where you need a structured excursion to have a great day. If you do want a guided experience, you can book it independently. As I mentioned, I have a great private driver who partners with a great local Cozumel tour guide, and they'll take you and your group alone around everywhere without dealing with the buses and the crowds. I'll drop that information below, and it's usually cheaper. So in my opinion, that's a much better option than a cruise line bus tour, but I'll come back to that later. But first, let's talk about number 4, not bringing enough cash and small bills. This is a quick one, but it'll bite you if you're not prepared. Many taxis in Cozumel do not accept credit cards, and while US dollars are widely accepted across the island, if you hand a driver a $100 bill for a $10 fare, you might get your change back in pesos, or they might refuse it entirely. And when it comes to exchange rate, that can be really confusing and come out less favorable, and it's also easy to get scammed. So my recommendation is to bring small bills. Plenty of ones, lots of 5s and 10s. You'll use them for taxis, tips, small purchases at the beach club, stuff like that. And I always tell cruisers this: never use your debit card for any cruise port anywhere in the world. Always use a credit card, specifically one with travel protections and no international transaction fee. So if something goes wrong, you know your bank is fighting for you. It's not tying up your actual liquid cash in the bank from your debit card. And I'll drop a link below of the one that I use, which is a Capital One Venture X card. Number 5, renting a scooter. And no, I'm not talking about cruisers on scooters like mobility devices. I'm talking about like 2-wheeled motorcycle things. And I'm gonna sound a little naggy, I'm gonna sound like your mama, and I don't care, because this needs to be said. Because I recently saw someone at a cruise port destination that traumatized me, who was lying on the road unalive. It wasn't a cruiser, it was a local person, but it really does put the fear of God in you. Do not rent a scooter in Cozumel. I know they look fun. I know they look cheap. I know it looks like a way to feel the breeze in your hair and explore a beautiful island destination on your own. It sounds great, right? It's a great way to zip around, but it's one of the riskiest choices you can make as a tourist here. Local taxi drivers will tell you this is the #1 mistake they see tourists make. Now, the situation I saw, that was in Puerto Plata, it was not in Cozumel, but I have personally seen cruisers wipe out on scooters in Cozumel. Now, if you're experienced motorcyclist, that's one thing, but a lot of times what you have are people who have never driven a scooter before. They think I'm on vacation, so I'm insulated in this protected bubble, but accidents happen way more often than you think. They just drive different also in these other destinations. Sometimes you'll find tourists going the wrong way down one-way streets, losing control on unfamiliar roads. The infrastructure is not like it is in America a lot of times, especially in Mexico. They wipe out with no protective gear. Road rash can be a best case scenario. And the worst case are the things that I've personally seen with my own eyes. So if you're in a foreign country, on an island, on vacation, if you get seriously hurt on a scooter, you're also dealing with a local hospital, which might not be what you're accustomed to, and an insurance nightmare. If you do not have travel insurance, always have travel insurance. I will harp on this all day long. I'll drop my guide below. Have insurance. I don't care where you get it, when you get it, who you get it, just get it. But take a taxi, hire a driver, enjoy the island without spending your vacation in an emergency room. And I'm not a fan of cruise line excursions, but I would actually pick cruise line excursions over renting a scooter. Number 6, thinking you can do just a free beach day. Now, this is the one that catches a lot of first-time Cozumel visitors off guard. You show up expecting to find these gorgeous sandy beaches with crystal clear water and lounge chairs just waiting for you. Well, that's not it. In my experience, the free public beach options near the cruise terminals are limited and not great. On my last visit last week, I did go visit one of the public beaches. It was actually very scenic and pretty, but it's very rocky. Entering the water, by the water, it's not soft sand. It's not a place you really want to kind of lay out. And there generally are no amenities unless you pay to rent chairs and umbrellas from a local vendor. And if you're gonna do that, you might as well just do a beach club, which is all inclusive. And I'll come to that. Now, most cruisers picturing that postcard perfect soft sand, turquoise water beach day, you're gonna be disappointed here, not just with the public beaches, but also this is not the Bahamas. I do like the ocean in Mexico, but it's very different. The sand is rougher. The water is usually not that turquoise. There's a lot of sargassum, which is seaweed. But here's the good news. The beach clubs in Cozumel, they're fantastic. They're a great value. It's part of the Cozumel culture. A lot of cruisers that go there frequently are big fans and frequent visitors of them. Hi, it's me. So at these beach clubs, you pay for a day pass. The costs are very reasonable. You get all-inclusive food and drinks, including alcohol, and some of the food is actually quite good. You have access to lounge chairs, umbrellas, you have beach and pool access, you get personal wait service. Some have buffets, but some have actually chairside service, and they're all a short taxi ride away from all 3 of those cruise terminals. So I genuinely think Cozumel beach clubs are one of the best values in the entire cruise port world, but you have to know they exist and you have to plan for them, and many of them do sell out. Now, there are a lot of them. There's 3 that a lot of people know and love, but there's a lot of newcomers on the scene. I do have a guide to Cozumel beach clubs. I'll drop that link below. So if you want to explore a beach club, I'll give you all the scoop in my guide. But walking off the ship expecting just to go to a beach day like you may experience at a port like Grand Turk, for example, you're not going to find that here. Number 7, about those beach clubs. The mistake is assuming all those beach clubs are the same. They are not. So you decided you want to do a beach club, which I do recommend. They're a great value. They are one of the only ways to access a good beach experience in Cozumel. But don't just pick one at random, do a little bit of research. And again, I have a guide, I'll drop it below. They all have slightly different vibes, and picking the wrong one for you or your group can turn a great way into a not as great day. Now, the big 3, which I referenced earlier, are Mr. Sancho's, Paradise Beach, and Nachi Kokum. Mr. Sancho's is probably the most well-known. It's the turn-up club. It's the party, loud music, big crowds, drink to excess energy. Now, that's not to say it's not family friendly. I have taken my daughter there. We've had a good time. It's not like people are running around like, woo, topless and like sloppy, right? It's a good time for adults, but also it's family friendly. But if you're cruising with friends, you're a big drinker, you like loud music, this is going to be your spot. But if you are bringing kids and you want a slightly more mellow day, you might find it a little overwhelming, and it is usually the most expensive of the three. Now, my personal favorite, which I was just at last week, is Paradise Beach. It's my kids' favorite as well. It's a little more laid back. The music is more, think Miami Beach pleasant rather than thumping bass, and the vibe is relaxed without ever being boring. Now, unfortunately with Paradise Beach, it has become very popular. It is starting to get a little overcrowded. I don't like that. It's a good problem, I guess, and kudos to the ownership for having success. But that is a little bit of a pain point for me in recent visits. Now, when it comes to food, I actually think Paradise Beach has the best food. That was not always the case. They got a new chef a couple of years ago, and that resulted in a significant increase. But this is a really great family-friendly spot. Oh, and if you're traveling with littles, they will, upon request, provide a small inflatable pool and fill it with pool water so your toddlers and babies can splash around. And I think that's great because a lot of times this population is excluded in cruising because they're often, if they're not potty trained, they're not even allowed in a swim diaper in cruise ship pools. And at Paradise Beach, they also have some pretty awesome beachside massages. Now, if you want really quiet, you want to avoid the crowds, a great option is Nachi Kokum. They do cap attendance at 130 guests per day, so you're not going to feel overcrowded like you're definitely going to feel at Sancho's, starting to feel at Paradise Beach, and it is usually the most affordable. Now, this facility is much smaller. It is dated. It could use some upkeep. The food options are more limited. But if you want peace and quiet, you want to lie in a hammock or just lie in a chair and listen to the waves of the beach, this is the move. Just make sure you do book it in advance because of that guest cap. There's also Shankanab. This is where I went on my very first visit years ago to Cozumel. This is more of a beach park than a beach club. It's geared more toward families, but the snorkeling is excellent. They have dolphin encounters, stuff like that. But don't expect the same all-inclusive experience. It's very different. It's not like that. It's a different kind of day. Again, more of a beach park than a beach club. So know the vibe before you book because you want to make sure you're at the place that fits you and what kind of beach day you're looking to experience. And I'll drop links to all these below in the comments. And by the way, I'm never sponsored. None of these cruise lines, none of these beach clubs ever pay me. But as a travel agent, if you do book using my link at no extra cost to you, I do get a small affiliate commission and I do appreciate your support because it keeps my channel running. Number 8, assuming Cozumel is just a beach day. Now look, I'm not gonna lie. I love Cozumel beach clubs, obviously. I talk about them a lot. I make content about them a lot. I go there a lot. But this is one that even repeat cruisers like me get wrong. And I started to experience this last week on my last visit because when you've been to Cozumel 3 or 4 times and every single visit has been the same routine, taxi stand, beach club, sit in the sand, you eat, you drink, you take a taxi back to the ship. Look, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big fan of that. Beach clubs are incredible, and if that's your happy place, then do it. But Cozumel has a lot more to offer than just sand and sun, and a lot of cruisers never see any of it. As I mentioned on my last visit, I decided to explore a little bit, and then I went to a beach club. So I did both, but I had my private driver, I had my private tour guide, they took us around, and I got to see more of the culture of the island, which I think is really cool, and that's an important reason for me when I decide to cruise. I want to learn about different cultures and people and history. And Cozumel in particular has a rich history. The island has over 1,000 years of really fascinating Mayan history. It's where the ancient Maya held sacred ceremonies. They have all of these different monuments, and they have El Cedral, which is the oldest Mayan ruin in Cozumel, dating way back to 800 AD. Cozumel also has really cool water experiences that are not beach experiences. If you've never experienced a Mexican cenote before, oh my gosh, transformative experience. I love a good cenote. In fact, I think I'm going to be visiting one when I'm there next week. And this is one that I've done on mainland in Cancun and Tulum, but I've never done in Cozumel, but I'm going to try to do it next week because this is an option that a lot of cruisers overlook because of the predominance of those beach clubs. But cenotes offer stunning natural sinkholes filled with crystal clear, ice cold, refreshing water that makes for an unforgettable swim. Also, in terms of culture, if you head into downtown San Miguel, I visited here last week, there is a local mercado where you can browse authentic crafts, goods, fruits, vegetables, meat, stuff like that are sold to locals. And they also have really great souvenirs for tourists that are not mass produced, not the same old ornaments and magnets you're gonna find at the cruise terminal shops. And usually those things are not made in Mexico. At the Mercado, you're gonna have a much greater chance of finding actual authentic goods. They also host tequila tastings, there's chocolate making experiences, and there's a lot of incredible local food, no senior frogs here, that goes a long way beyond the all-inclusive buffets that you're gonna find at the beach club, which is kind of like an extension of cruise food. Usually very Americanized, usually tailored to American taste. But if you want want those actual authentic local flavors, the Mercado is going to be the spot to go. So if this kind of day appeals to you, again, I have a recommended private driver, Eduardo, and a tour guide. I've got a couple, Alfredo and Johnny in Cozumel. They're amazing. It's safe. They'll take you to all these spots in one port day, or you can do what I did, get a little dab of culture, but then spend half your day at the beach club. So you get a little bit of both. You get the ruins, the cenote, views of the island, coastal views. You can try a local meal. It's a very different Cozumel experience that I recommend every frequent cruiser try at least once. Number 9, the big one. I love Cozumel for a lot of reasons, but a very shallow reason that I like Cozumel is because it's almost always the guaranteed port where you're gonna find a pier runner. I saved this one for last because it is the one with the highest stakes. We joke about it, but it's a legit issue and concern. Cozumel's beach clubs, as I noted, they're all inclusive. As I noted, that means unlimited alcohol. And for some people, they take that as a personal challenge. So they'll go to Sancho's and they'll just pound them back all day long to get their money's worth. But here's what happens. Someone spends 6 hours at Sancho's drinking margaritas in the hot Mexican sun. They lose track of time, especially if there's a time difference, which often is the case in Cozumel between ship time and local time. And suddenly they realize, oh my gosh, that ship's last call is quickly approaching. And I'm 20 minutes away by taxi from the pier. So now they're sprinting through the terminal, still in their swimsuits, sandals slapping against the pavement, trying to make it up the gangway before the crew pulls it in. Now, the ones who don't make it are stranded in Cozumel with no luggage, no plan, and a very expensive problem to solve. The cruise line will not wait for you unless you book a cruise line excursion. I'm not a fan of cruise line excursions, but that is the one perk. So if you are very bad with time management skills or you're a highly anxious person, just pay extra and book a cruise line excursion. That's the time you always should. But for other people who explore independently, which in Cozumel, those beach clubs typically are independent excursions, that ship will not wait for you if you come late. So always build in enough buffer time. Do not let yourself be the person that finds himself on TikTok missing the ship.